Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Josh Halafka, Chairman of the Libertarian Party of Florida. It is May 21st, 2023, and I am calling this monthly Executive Committee meeting of the LPF to order at 7:32 p.m. Let me take a look here. So next on the agenda is the roll call. So Mr. Appler, when you're ready, you may take roll, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Josh Lofka.
Present.
Tim Crosby.
Here.
Edward Appler is present. Pat Leisner.
Present.
Robert Vincent.
Here.
Hector Roos.
Present. Unaccountable.
Lee Kortzer.
Present.
Matt Rice.
Here.
Joey Ferguson.
Here.
Leon Armstrong. Rachel Danner.
Here.
Andrew Parrott.
Here.
Matt Johnson.
I am here.
Patricia Kent Quinn.
Present.
Dennis Missigoy. Adam Whitworth.
Present.
Michael Rufo. John Paff.
Here.
Deanna Cosma.
Here.
Lisa Gansky.
Here.
17 present, 3 absent. We have quorum. Okay, Dennis Missigoy, I see is here.
Excellent, excellent. So, all right, so we got Dennis here. We have quorum as well. Want to thank Mr. Cowan for being on the call as well tonight. Thank you, Martin, for attending over here. Next up is item number 4, public comment. We're going to give approximately 10 minutes for any member of the gallery here who's not on the EC to make public comment. Is there anyone looking to be recognized for public comment? All right, seeing and hearing no one, we can, I guess, move ahead in that case.
I'm sorry, I was getting to the mute button. My name's Stan McDaniels, chair here in Escambia County. Just wanted to introduce myself. It's the first time getting on the state call. Thank you very much.
Awesome, Dan. Thanks for coming on and taking an interest in the business and the happenings of the LPF over here. Appreciate it.
Hey, Stan. Sorry, Josh.
Mr. Vincent, is this germane to the meeting?
Yes, Stan and I talked about his public comment earlier, and we wanted to talk about the P3 Comedy Festival briefly.
Okay, if Stan would like to speak on that, I'd be more than happy to give Mr. McDaniels the floor again real quick.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, so we have secured a table for this comedy event here in Pensacola for Pride Weekend, and looking forward to courting this client this donor with a statement this week so that we can get some more funding for our chapter here in Escambia County. And we are looking for materials for the tabling, like, stickers and materials to be passing out for the Libertarian Party. There'll be lots of military with the TAPS program. So there'll be lots of military people, and then being Pride Weekend, there'll be lots of other people too. So we're looking for materials for tabling, and yeah.
Excellent, Mr. McDaniels. I appreciate you guys doing that up there in Escambia County, and I would highly advise getting with, I believe, Christina Baxter, who is our affiliate support committee chair, and she should be able to assist with either helping you get some of those or pointing you in the right direction for those materials. So once again, reach out to Christina over here. Christina, if you're on the call, definitely get with Mr. McDaniels and let's try and help them out and make this event a success over there. All right. Is there anybody else in the gallery looking to be recognized for public comment? Going once, going twice. All right. We will, I guess, close out public comment in that case. Thank you, everybody who came out and spoke. Next is item 5 on the agenda, which is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to motion to amend the agenda slightly.
Well, we would have to have a motion to take up the agenda as an item.
All right.
Mr. Crosby, are you moving
So
the?
moved. So moved.
All right, Mr. Crosby moves the agenda. Is there a second?
Hector Roos seconds.
Hector Roos seconds. All right. Is there any discussion on the agenda?
And I motion to amend it now.
Yes, you can, Mr. Crosby. Go ahead.
All right. Because it's our first meeting and just to save some time here as well, I would like to remove committee reports and all of the various EC reports. We can leave the LNC report because Martin has decided to show up, so that's good. So we can leave that, but I just want to get rid of the EC reports basically. And the committee reports because we're getting ready to put committee chairs. And then also on that amendment, I don't know if you need to do this separately, but we have old business in here to affiliate Hillsborough. I don't think that's going to be controversial at all. So I'd like to move that to the consent agenda.
All right.
Also
So,
seconds.
all right. I'm going to call moving the old business out of order just because that's going to be a very quick thing just to mention it basically, Tim. So I get what you're trying to do in the spirit, but I don't think it's necessary. So I'm going to call that portion out of order, but I am going to approve so just to make sure it's worded correctly, Mr. Crosby is moving to amend the agenda to waive the committee, officer, and regional and at-large reports for the LPF and leave the LNC report. Is there a second? I believe there was a second from Mr. Paff and Mr. Roos on this. Is there any discussion on this amendment at all, guys? Go ahead, Mr. Courtser, sir.
Yes, if we remove the officer reports, does the consent agenda under the chair report go with it?
That's a good question there, Mr. Courtser. I didn't think of that. Let me, because it's already been seconded at this point here. So we would need to have an amendment to the amendment to not include, I believe, the consent agenda in there. Would there be anybody?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
All right,
Second.
Mr. Crosby. Okay, here. So so everybody can keep up. So we had a amendment to the amendment to still include the consent agenda while waiving the rest of the reports. There was a second to still include the consent agenda from Mr. Courtser. It was moved by Mr. Roos. Is there any discussion on the amendment to the amendment? Is there any objection to the amendment of the amendment? Hearing none, the amendment to the amendment passes. We're back on to the main amendment, which was that we are waiving all of the officer, committee, and regional and at-large reports, barring the LNC report and the chair's consent agenda. Is there any further discussion on this amendment to the agenda?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Leisner, go ahead, sir.
Hey, I'll be quick. I just want to note that anyone that has any questions about the treasurer's report, just reach out to me and I'll be happy to answer those individually. Thank you.
Excellent, Mr. Leisner. You do actually a very thorough report. I really didn't have any questions myself, but for anybody out there, if you do have questions, Mr. Leisner would be more than happy with the treasurer's report to answer that there. Is there any further discussion on the amendment to the agenda? All right. Is there any objection to the amendment of the agenda? All right, hearing no objection, it sounds like the amendment to the agenda passes. We have waived all of the officer, committee, and LPF at-large reports, except for the chair's consent agenda. Is there any further discussion on the agenda? All right, move this to a vote then. Simple voice vote shouldn't be anything more than needed here. So all in favor of passing the agenda as amended, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say nay. The agenda passes. All right, thank you, everyone. We are moving on to item 6, which is the approval of the LPF EC meeting minutes from March 19th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
All right, Mr. Crosby moves. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Johnson seconds. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Is there any objection to the approval of the minutes? Hearing no objection, EC meeting minutes are approved unanimously. All right, item 7, approval of the LPF annual business meeting minutes. So this is the minutes from the convention from this past year. Is there a motion to move?
So moved.
All right, Mr.
Seconded.
Crosby moves.
Second.
Seconded. All right, I didn't catch who the first second was, but I got Mr. Johnson on the second, so you're going to be the one recorded, sir. Is there any discussion on the convention minutes? Is there any objection to the convention minutes? Sounds like the convention minutes pass approved unanimously. All right, let's move on. Item 8 is the LNC report. Mr. Cowan, we got you on the call. Sir, when you are ready, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you all for allowing me to be your alternate in Region 2. I very much enjoy my role. The LNC is going to be meeting in person in DC at the Convention Hotel in July or August. I'm not sure we've decided when, but I'm looking forward to going up there and participating in that. Our chair, Angela, has directed me and others to begin making phone calls to all of the people who have given us money in the last 2 years, but have not given us money recently. And so I'm looking forward to doing that. I actually did call all of Georgia, all of Alabama, and I think that, and did some work in Mississippi. But you all can be expecting such a call asking for renewed donations to the National Party. But I'm looking forward to doing that. That's as anybody who's done telephone calling knows how difficult that is, but it's necessary to keep the ball rolling. So again, we're doing a great job at the LNC, and I invite any questions you may have. Thank you so much for allowing me to serve. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Cowan. I appreciate the work you and the rest of the LNC are doing out there. If things shake out right, I might actually come up and join you guys in DC in July or August when you guys settle on that. But just want to thank you guys again. I know there's a lot of hard work. Being on the LNC is a very thankless job, Martin. So once again, I appreciate you coming out, doing the hard work here. And, us here in Florida are very appreciative of everything you've brought to us down here. So keep up the good work over there. You guys don't probably hear that enough. So, thank you again for the hard work you guys are doing on the LNC.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So that would move us on to item 9 on the agenda, committee reports. We have waived the committee reports, although I highly encourage anybody who has any questions to reach out to the committee chairs to get any information you may need. Number 10 on the agenda was the officer reports and comments. Once again, Mr. Leisner has already offered, his time if anybody has any questions.
5 minutes or so.
Can we mute, please? There we go. All right, so apologize for that there, guys. So officer reports and comments have been waived. So that would move us on to the chair's consent agenda here. I'm looking to move to staff the following LPF committees as follows. Affiliate support, Christina Baxter, Chair, Eric Cordova, Vice Chair, Eric Parker, John Path, Michael Higgins. Audit Committee, John Thompson, Chair, with members Christian Dove and Lee Koritzer. Candidates Committee, Hector Roos as chair, Eric Cordova vice chair, and members Joshua Krakow and Jeremiah Swoveland. Communications Committee chaired by Matthew Johnson, vice chaired by Lisa Gansky, and with members including Christina Baxter, Beth Johnson, Christian Purley, Tony Sellers, and Jeremiah Sloveland. Convention Committee chaired by Patrick Leisner, and then members with Lisa Gansky, Dennis Mike Simpson, Mark Golob, Gabrielle Cordova, and Victor Wyrich. I do apologize if I mispronounced your last name, Victor. And then Fundraising Committee, it's Stephen Nikela as chair, Gabby Cordova as vice chair, with members Hector Roos and Robert Kraus. Legislative Action Committee chaired by Robert Vincent, with members Sarah Groves, Becky Bruinton, Hector Roos, Lee Koritzer, Ed Wagner. Membership Committee chaired by Ricardo Mijas, and Platform Committee chaired by John Thompson. Is there any objection to anything on the consent agenda? Just for reference to advise everybody, if there is objection, this gets moved into new business, and that would make it open for discussion. So just want to make sure everybody understands what objecting to something on the consent agenda would do before that way you guys can make an informed decision. So one more time, is there any objection to the consent agenda? Hearing no objections, consent agenda passes. I want to congratulate all our new committee chairs, our returning committee chairs, new vice chairs, new members on the committees, and Mr. Mijas, I'm going to definitely have to get with you. I want to apologize publicly on behalf of myself. I've just gotten caught up the last 2 weeks with work and life. I haven't been able to reach out to you directly to get your committee staff, but please, if you already have a list, send me that list over here. If we need to move it by an email ballot to get your committee staffed, or if you already have members that are running, keep doing what you're doing, sir. Send me the list and we'll get that approved ASAP for you.
I don't have a list, but I will be sending some emails and phone calls to some people the next several days.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mijas. And I'm also going to share with you the spreadsheet that from all of the committee applications. That way you have a list of who was members who volunteered to be part of the membership committee. And that way, if you see anybody you would like on there, you can reach out to them and get them on there ASAP. So
Okay,
once
thanks.
again, I want to apologize for not getting to you this week, sir. And we're going to get that committee staffed as quickly
That's
as
all right.
possible for you.
I keep on working anyway, so.
I appreciate it, Dr. Mijas. Keep on the hard work you're doing there, and it doesn't go unappreciated or unnoticed, sir. So thank you again. Continuing along with the agenda, guys, we're on to item 11, which is the directors at large and region reports. That was waived, so we can move into item 12, unfinished business. This was an email ballot to affiliate Hillsborough County. The disposition for the motion ended up going through an email ballot. There was 15 passes, or passed with 15 ayes. Vote for ayes was Nikela, Halafka, Appler, Perez, Gilmore, Roos, Thompson, Leisner, Johnson, Danner, Whitworth, Rufo, Papp, Pinkowski, and Sellers. 0 nays and 4 did not votes from Vincent, Baxter, Balazic, and Fleming there. So the Hillsborough County is now affiliated, is what that means. I want to congratulate the members of the Hillsborough County affiliate who are on this call. I believe I should have gotten you the letter for affiliation late last week. I do apologize for the delay. My technology decided it wanted to work against me here in this situation since it's statist, but hopefully if you guys haven't got that, Mr. Moskrick, please let me know. But I want to congratulate you guys again on being affiliated once more, and look forward to seeing big things out of Hillsborough County there. All right, and now we are on to our favorite part, which is item 13, new business. First item under new business is item A, which is the election of a Region 3 representative. Do we have any nominations for a Region 3 representative? Going once? Going twice? All right, we will move along and see if we have anybody next month for Region 3. All right, next up is item B, which is motion 807, motion for the LPF to take over paying $8 a month for Twitter Blue. The mover was Lisa Gansky. Do I have a second for the motion?
Hector Roos seconds.
Mr. Roos seconds. All right.
I
So
think,
Miss,
we'd like to make a slight change because I think it's cheaper if we pay annually. So I just wanted to add that.
okay, Miss Gansky, are you looking to make an amendment to the
Yeah.
motion to make it a yearly payment?
Yes, please.
Okay, so there has been an amendment to the motion to make it a yearly payment.
I'll also second.
Mr. Johnson, second.
Okay, guys, let me ask for the seconds before you start throwing them out at me. But seriously, let's keep order here, guys. We're all adults. So, Miss Gansky, for the record, because I know it's going to come up before I take seconds, ladies and gentlemen. Do you know what the yearly price is? Because I know it's going to get asked.
I can't remember. I'll have to look it up.
$84.
It's $84.
$84. Okay, so there has been a motion to amend to change it to a yearly payment of $84 instead of a monthly payment of $8. I'm going to give the second to Mr. Johnson since he was so quick to jump it there, guys. But once again, let's wait till I ask for a second before you start throwing it out there. Is there any discussion on the amendment to move it to an annual payment? Mr. Leisner, go ahead, sir.
I just think it might be smarter to go ahead and bump that number up to like $100 in case that, you know, taxes or fees or anything that get tacked on when we go to check out. So it's under the threshold.
Understood. So there's been an amendment to the amendment to change to to spend no more than $100 towards an annual subscription to Twitter Blue. Is there a second?
Yes, that's correct.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. All right, Mr. Crosby came up first with the second, so he gets it. Is there any discussion on the amendment to make it a $100 limit? Seeing and hearing no want for discussion, is there any objection to the amendment to the amendment? Hearing no objection, the amendment to the amendment passes. So we're back on the original amendment, which was to switch from an $8 a month subscription to an annual subscription, spending no more than $100. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Hearing and seeing none, is there any objection to the amendment? All right, hearing no objection, amendment passes. So we're back on to the main motion that was moving to have the Libertarian Party of Florida budget and take over paying up to $100 a year in order to retain Twitter Blue and our verified check mark. Ms. Gansky, since we didn't get a chance originally, would you like to speak to your motion? I'm gonna take the silence as a no. Okay, is there any other discussion on the motion? All right, hearing no further discussion, we'll just take this to a quick voice vote since we're spending money, guys. So all in favor of doing a yearly Twitter Blue subscription not to exceed $100 in expenditure, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, please say no. Sounds like the ayes have it, unanimous passing. All right, congratulations. We keep Twitter Blue on the Twitter handle for another year. Moving on, we're on to motion 808. That is motion to amend the standing rules to add Operation First Step Incentive Program. The mover is Hector Roos. Do I have a second for the motion?
I'll second Mr. Leisner.
All right, Mr. Leisner seconds. All right, Mr. Roos, would you like to speak to your motion, sir?
Just quickly, I'm going to repeat what's in the rationale that was filed. Basically, this was a fundraising and development program that was created in 2001 under my predecessor, Commissioner Jim Cherney, from the Candidates Committee. This was has been used successfully and really never superseded the budget that was allocated or near even approached it. So it's been useful to identify people who are in the party that are actually doing the work of Operation First Step, which is the ladder program of joining the local civic boards and committees learning how local government works, building relationships and resume building as a stepping stone toward running for office. So this particular language has only been slightly modified to adapt it from a motion to the standing rules. And it added a few a language about making the Moose Lodge members pre-approved for under this program, which before it was simply on a one basis. And then there was also a language just to update it in regards to retroactive awards. So there always been essentially a language in there to recognize affiliates that had been or the members who had been of new affiliates that already have been doing had already been part of either a civic board or committee or a service organization. That's really which I forgot to mention. Service organizations are also rewarded. So up to this point, I think we've had about no more than $500 given to any one affiliate, and it's only meant for one-time seed money. So we can always amend this again later. Same issue. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Roos. Is there anybody looking to speak in objection to this motion?
I would like to amend. Is that a thing I can do?
Yes, Mr. Crosby, go ahead, sir.
I would like to amend this motion. I think it's a good idea. I guess I'll give my rationale later, but I want to amend and strike section 5 and renumber the following sections accordingly.
All right here. So I'm just looking to see.
And I'll explain. So in when this has come up previously, about which memberships count for this incentive program and which don't, there was always a question like, well, does the Elks Lodge count? Does the Moose Lodge count? Does the Shiners count? All this kind of stuff. So as it's written, it's pretty vague. It just says a community service organization, and it's not really clearly understood what that is. I think the intention of the program is to get people, like he said, on the ladder to being involved in local government. And so the other language in this pretty well covers that. So I would just like to amend this to just strike that section entirely to get rid of that confusion until it can be reworded to be better or added later at a later date, as Mr. Roos indicated.
All right, so there's been an amendment by Mr. Crosby to strike section 5 in its entirety and renumber the rest of the sections to comply. Is there a second to that amendment?
A second.
A second.
All right, Mr. Johnson seconds over here. Is there any discussion on the amendment
Yes.
to strike section 5? Go ahead, Mr. Cortzer, you have the floor, sir.
Right. I understand the rationale, and community service organization is defined later in section 7 definitions. But if you strike that whole section, you're striking the amount that would be awarded to someone in a service organization. Am I not correct?
Yeah, I mean, we can re-add it later. I guess I'd have to strike that part of section 7 as well, I guess. But yeah.
I believe that would be correct.
But wouldn't that defeat the purpose, as Hector put out there, that those who are in service organizations are whom you want to pull in to the affiliates, award them for that, and hope that they move forward with their connection, using their connections to be politically more involved in the community?
As I understood it, the overall intention of the first step is to get people involved with local government and local office, and then build them towards becoming candidates later. I understand that these organizations will offer some community connections and things that may help somebody later. But I just personally don't think that they belong in the same category. I don't know, but maybe there's disagreement. Yeah, that's why it's up. Yeah.
All right. Well, Hector, Mr. Roos, you have your hand up, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, I see the intent. I think we've over the course of how this has been applied, we pretty much resolved the issue because that had come up before, and so that's why there is this list in section 7, and why I even added the Moose Lodge as an afterthought to this, because as the EC basically identifies new organizations, we've been modifying either the motion or simply not contesting applications because of if they were on a list or if they were on a known organization. And so we're not trying to create an exhaustive list here in the section 7. But we are trying to say that if it's not clear, the EC simply would simply agrees or doesn't or disagrees with the reward. So in other words, it's always up to our discretion ultimately. If it is an organization in section 7, then we're pre-approving that unless we object, when it comes up again. And so in other words, I don't think it's I understand what you're saying, but I think we've sufficiently resolved the concern. And if you don't if people still agree that the situation or condition is still warrants this amendment, then by all means you can consider voting for it. If you think we've done enough over the last 2 years with this, then by all means vote for the amendment. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Roos. So just for reference, guys, we are still on the amendment to strike section 5 in its entirety and renumerate the other sections to stay in compliance. Is there any further discussion? I've heard 2 against. Is anybody supporting the amendment? Ms. Kuzma, you're speaking in support of the amendment?
Yes, I am actually speaking in support of the amendment. And as a Moose member, and particularly my old affiliate, having a lot of Moose members that could qualify for this, I don't really see, to be honest, at least in that particular organization, and maybe this isn't the point. A lot of us belong to these organizations, but we're not really doing that much for the community just by being a member of that organization. I realized previously when rewards were issued, you kind of wanted to vet the people that they were actually doing something within that organization to, to help the community and to do things of that nature and to grow the party as well. I just really don't see where that's working, to be honest. I don't know anybody, at least myself, if I can speak to myself, I belong to the Moose. I can get cheap beer. I'm not really doing that much for the community as being part of the Moose. That's it. That's really all I've got. I really don't see the point of that as helping us get candidates or get candidates elected.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kuzma. Is there anybody looking to speak in objection to the amendment? Mr. Roosh, you want your second bite at the apple? You're muted.
Just wanted to respond to what Representative Cosmo just said, which was it's absolutely true. There aren't that many. Thankfully, there aren't that many members of the Moose that actually are in these committees or affiliates that apply because they know they're not really taking it seriously. I do my donation too, and that's about as much as my engagement is with the Moose as well. But the point, the other side of the equation of Operation First Step as an incentive program had always been both as a fundraising program for the LPF and as a mechanism to send seed money to affiliates, and that's not considered like affiliate welfare. There's actually justification here to take money that is essentially committed for this kind of purpose from the state to them. So and thankfully people have not abused this. And the EC has guarded against that kind of abuse in the past. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Roos. Is there anybody looking to speak in support of the amendment? All right, hearing and seeing that no one's looking to speak in support of the amendment, we're going to move to a vote, guys. Simple voice vote. This amendment was once again to strike section 5 out of this motion in its entirety and renumerate the preceding sections to comply. All in favor of this amendment to strike section 5, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say no.
Nay.
Nope.
All right, sounds like the ayes have it. The amendment passed. Section 5 has been struck and has been renumbered accordingly. We are back on the main motion. Is there any further discussion on the main motion? All right, Hearing no discussion, I believe we can just take this to another quick voice vote here. All in favor of passing the motion as amended, please say aye.
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 All right, all opposed, please say no. All right, sounds like the ayes have it. Motion passes. That is now in the standing rules. All right, so now we are on to item D, motion 809, motion to approve the calling of a Libertarian presidential preference primary in March of 2024. The mover for this is Hector Roos. Do I have a second on the motion? Going once.
Seconded.
All right, Ms. Danner seconds. All right, Mr. Roos, would you like to speak to your motion, sir?
Sure. I want to say that this was first inspired by a comment by the Brevard County Chair Nathan Slusher, who was encouraging us to look at primaries more closely, and we found out that the law the law that actually posts the presidential preference primary for the two big party Republicans and Democrats also applies to third parties. And so, being that we have the only difference is it's conditional for us, it's mandatory for them. And if there's any ambiguity regarding the language, the Secretary of State actually has to abide by our wishes in it, since there's nothing to dispute for them to dispute that with. Now, there's two additional components here within this, is that we could always ask for a slate of candidates that we want to post there. That's all on us. We can agree on that tonight, or we can actually even consider a separate motion to separate that list out and consider it separately. Also there's the third component then is this question about whether we want to open it up to that is independent, non-party affiliated voters who we would try to appeal with by saying, hey, if you want to vote for a Libertarian instead and not have to wait till November, you can do so now. And then again, you can vote again Libertarian in November. So you get 2 times a year, 2 times in a statewide election to vote for a Libertarian of your choice. Now, again, the presidential preference primary is an election that is hosted by the state of Florida, managed by the Secretary of State and 67 county supervisors elections. It is already paid for under the state budget. So, and it's a sunk cost. So they're just given money, and then they have to afford, basically, we come under the same budget that's already being used to run the election. It would fall under in March, I believe it's March 19th. It would be on, and it would be the same. So we would have a ballot printed for Libertarians, or a Libertarian a ballot that would be issued either to people who qualify for that ballot. So our election would happen at the same time as Republicans and Democrats. Again, the third component of this is if we want to have this debate about inviting independent, no party affiliated voters to vote to also get it. We can request it. It's more likely than not that that is an ask too far under state law, although it's not. Although it should be up to us to determine who, especially under our platform, to determine who should be invited or allowed to vote on our internal party elections and or nominations in that sense. With that, I'll take any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Roos. Is there any discussion on the motion here? Mr. Leisner, see your hands up. Go ahead. You have the floor, sir.
Hey, yeah, I mean, my issue with running the primary and having the state pay for it is that it's essentially doesn't hold any weight in terms of who would win the nomination for the LP. But beyond that, I just feel like we should be working towards getting the state to not fund primaries in general, because it really has nothing to do with the elections of the state. It's party matters. And rather than going in the direction of using state money or money in the state's budget to run our primary to be like the other parties, we should be fighting to get them to not have primaries paid for by the government. That's really it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Leisner. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Can I respond to that?
Go ahead, Mr. Misigor. You have standing. You get the floor, sir.
All right. I understand and agree with the sentiment that, yeah, we don't want to be supporters of we are all opposed to having taxpayer funded primaries. And I think that's a stand we should always have clear. But still bear in mind that given what the status quo is, there's still going to be the August election. Well, not necessarily the August elections in this case, but the primary elections are still going on at this point. This isn't necessarily a thing of where this is going to preserve them or save them, or necessarily our support for them. But I think obviously with the other parties having their candidates on a ballot and having the election, it's already being paid for, and there are other items on the ballot typically during those elections. So those elections are going to be happening regardless. I do think it's a good way where, if for nothing else, simply just using it as a tool to get visibility on our names for all of the voters who may be going out there to vote on that day, that are just going to get the short ballot because they don't have because they're not affiliated with any party. So, but I mean, I get where he's coming from, but I don't think, again, us going this route doesn't negate that position. And it's certainly still something we can fight for and speak out against, even while pursuing this route. And not pursuing this isn't going to get us any step closer to ending taxpayer-funded primaries anyway. So.
All right, thank you, Mr. Misigor. I saw a whole bunch of hands shoot up while Dennis was talking here, so we're just going to go in order. Mr. Paff, you have the floor, and then Mr. Johnson and Mrs. McCully, you'll be next.
Yeah, I support the motion. I know that if we do have presidential primary elections, that it'll be a matter of public record which LPF voters choose to vote in that election. And that will indicate a level of interest and activity that will separate those voters from the thousands of voters we have who we never hear from. And as a recruitment tool, I would be wanting to I'd like to be able to contact those voters first and then prioritize them in recruitment efforts.
All right, thank you, Mr. Paff. Mr. Johnson, you're next. Go ahead, sir.
I just want to point out that, as Hector mentioned in the chat, it would end up being a non-binding primary. So it's wasted time. It's political theater. It serves no purpose whatsoever. The delegate would be chosen by the delegates who are sent to DC or respective conventions. And if we hold our delegates to the vote of the preferential primary, are we not, according to LNC's bylaws, subject to having our delegates unseated? I just think it just doesn't make sense.
All right, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Ms. McCully, you have the floor. Go ahead, miss.
Several points. So this is non-binding, but I think what it gives us is data on what the people who are registered to vote and what, if we do the NPA route, what NPAs in the state, who they like as the candidate. So even if it's not binding on us as delegates, it's showing the delegates what sort of the people that will be voting in the mainline election want. And the other point was it does get our voters out to the polls. I know, like, when I was in a state with open primaries in Virginia, I was at the polls more. But I'm never going to register Republican or Democrat. I know lots of other libertarians never won't. So they're not out at the polls on primaries. This gets our people out to the polls on primary elections. And if there's other things on the ballot, And I feel like it gives people who aren't super involved in state level or national level parties, it makes them feel more like their voice is heard, and is maybe going to get them more involved on like the local level. Because I remember before I got involved in like the party, it was confusing to me, like how to get involved, how to have my voice heard. Like I remember like 2016, I was really confused by like our primary process. So yeah, I feel like having a primary on the ballot accomplishes some of those things. It gives the people who aren't super involved in party politics a voice, and it gets our voters out to the polls.
All right, thank you, Ms. McCully. Mr. Ferguson, you have the floor, sir. Go ahead.
I just kind of wanted to reiterate the same thing that Matt said. It seems pointless, seems overly bureaucratic, and a waste of time. And in my opinion, it's kind of makes us look stupid having NPAs voting for our stuff. Like we don't get to go vote on the Republicans or the Democrats, so why are we letting other people come vote on ours?
All right, thank you, Mr. Ferguson. Mr. Roos, if you want your second bite at the apple, go ahead, sir. You're muted still, Hector, so you're.
Thank you. I did want to I wanted to clarify a couple things that have been said. First, that this is non-binding. This is a non-binding primary. Second, that there's a debate here that we're having about whether MPA voters should be invited to come and vote for a primary in our request to the Secretary of State. Now, the reality is that there are way more libertarians that are simply in Florida that are simply not registered as Libertarian Party of Florida. These people are not automatically opposed to us, so and it's particularly not in the same way that someone in another party has indicated. So that's to be clear. Second, this is, since it's no cost to us and we've already paid for it exactly. In fact, we would have and we would be able to get the data of who voted, not how they voted, but who voted on our ballot, as an indicator of their interest of even working with us. So that question is basically, we're going from 46,000 registered libertarians to over 4 million MPA voters. That is really the difference of what type of data we can get that we do not and we cannot afford to get on our own. So this is something we've already paid for through our taxes. This is something that does have actual use for our development. And of course, there is a soft benefit of having the publicity and the ability to encourage voters to vote twice in 2 years for a libertarian across the entire state. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Roos. Mr. Ferguson, I see your hand was up. You can have your second bite at the apple. After Mr. Ferguson's done, Ms. McCully, you'll be next.
Number one, how do you know how many of those people that are NPAs are actually libertarian? And number two, if they're going to be people that are doing anything with us, you would think that the very least they could do is switch to the Libertarian Party instead of being an NPA. If they can't even do that much, why are we wasting time trying to outreach to them to get them to do something? I mean, it costs them nothing to switch party affiliation. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ferguson. Ms. McCully, you can have your second bite at the apple. Go ahead.
Yeah, another thing I would like to add that I forgot to add last time is it does legitimize us as a party. Like, because the Republicans and Democrats have this, if we have it too, it just makes us seem like we're one of them more, which makes people more likely to vote for us. A lot of the objection people have to voting Libertarian and why they'll pick what they deem to be a lesser evil is because they don't perceive us as having the power to win elections. And I think having the primary shows more like that we are the third party in the country.
All right, thank you, Ms. McCully. Mr. Roos, I see your hands up, but you've already had 2 bites at the apple. there's something germane
Yes,
that you'd like to.
Mr. Ferguson's statement was phrased as a question. I wanted to clarify if I can answer that.
You did have 2 bites at the apple, Hector. If there is there any objection to Hector having a chance to answer the question? I'll leave it up to the board. Hearing no objection, Hector, I'll give you one more shot.
I appreciate it. I'm just here to simply answer this question. The question being is that why don't people register Libertarian? Why is there only 46,000 voters out of 8 million or over 8 million are registering this way? And the reality is that there are legitimate legal and social barriers toward people to actually do that. Mainly that in most elections that actually matter in the state are partisan, and you have to be registered in 1 or 2 parties to vote in them. And so there are requirements to that. And on top of that, there are social pressures of people having to be registered in a particular party for business and social purposes as well. Frankly, our community within the LPF isn't large enough to sustain the type of community that they're already benefiting from in other parties. So this is really a question of I hope that's clear about why they don't. But also that doesn't mean they don't want to associate with us either. It doesn't have to be an all or one shot or an absolutely one form of affiliation or association. In fact, we do ask, and we often get non-registered libertarians to donate, to volunteer, and to vote for our ticket, because typically our statewide candidates get, especially for presidential years, get many more votes than what our registered voter count is. And I hope that answered the question. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Roos. So Mr. Slusher, I see your hands up here. I also see Mr. Misigoy's. Since Mr. Misigoy is a board member, I'm going to give him first shot, and then Mr. Slusher, if there's no objection from the board, I will give you a chance to address the board. Mr. Misigoy, you may go ahead and you have the floor when you're ready, sir.
Thank you. So just a couple of points. I mean, we do need to have the recognition that for us to have success, we've got to reach beyond people. And while I would certainly love and agree, and I always, whenever we speak to people in doing outreach and are trying to, I'm always of the same mind of, well, can we get people to register Libertarian? And certainly they should. And I get that point that the party's representative nominee, and again, this is non-binding anyway, but should be chosen by people who are members of the party. But at the same time, we've got to look at this from in terms of what's the effect of it. And we talked a little bit about the legitimizing, even just simply awareness. I mean, I can tell you from having run statewide last year at a bare minimum, I mean, it was the biggest expense of the campaign. And it was also, it was something that once sample ballots started going out after the August primary, people saw my name and there was a spike in interest. And that's one of the things we want to try to achieve here is we want to have a spike in interest. We want to have interest from people looking at their sample ballots or looking at the ballot when they step in, more than a couple months before the election when people are already, in particular when you're talking about the situation in presidential primaries, before they get whittled down to here's the Republican versus the Democrat and people really see it as a 1v1 contest. Before we get to that stage, we want there to be awareness about libertarian candidates. And I think that this, from my experience of having my name on the ballot, is as cost-effective a tool as we can have in that regard, along with all the other reasons that other folks have stated. And again, with a reminder that it's non-binding, so it's not like we're going to get sabotaged into nominating, a bunch of people are going to bomb our primaries into selecting Vermin Supreme or something. So, just throwing that in there. So I think it's, I think there's a substantial benefit to just being seen. Being seen is probably one of our biggest challenges. Certainly has been, from my perspective, one of the biggest challenges when we're trying to have candidates in big races, which are the big races are the ones where you get big awareness. And this could be a pathway towards that, or at least towards increasing that. And I think it's worth exploring and pursuing.
All right, thank you, Mr. Misigoy. Mr. Slusher, once again, I know I said give you the next shot, but we have another board member who'd like to speak, so I'm gonna have to let them go ahead there. So Mr. Leisner, you have the floor, sir. Go ahead.
Hey, I just had a question, really. So I don't know who would be best to answer this, but it's my understanding that even if we do have a primary, NPAs would not be allowed to vote on the ballot, right? We would not even show up on their ballot. So I'm confused why we're talking about NPAs at all in this situation. And maybe I'm wrong, but the state of Florida has closed primaries, correct? So we would only be getting out to our people. So any discussion about NPA is, in my mind, completely pointless. Thank you.
No problem. And I can answer that question, Patrick, is that yes, technically due to the state's closed primary situation, we would not be able to have MPAs. MPAs would not be given a ballot for LP. Now, we have every right to be able to ask the Secretary of Elections to allow for that. And the Secretary of Elections has every right to tell us, no, we're not going to do that. You guys know the law. So this is an ask as far as I'm aware based on this, but it is not something that could potentially happen. And I believe it even says in the rationale that in all likelihood, the Secretary of State will probably say no to our request to allow non-LP voters in the presidential preference primary because of Florida law. But the law about us having a presidential preference primary is definitely in our favor. So it is known. It is there, Pat. So I just want to answer the question for the board. There is that yes, it's technically MPAs cannot vote. We can always make the ask, but the motion as it is worded here would be intending to make that ask there, and that is why it's there. All right. Mr. Rufo, I see your hands up. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry, Mr. Slusher. Once the boards run out, then I will get to you.
You can let Nathan go first. It's fine. I have no problem conceding letting him go first. It's okay. He's waited long enough. Mine was just please. I'd rather.
Gotcha, Mr. Rufo. You are a sitting member on the board here, so you do have standing without needing to be approved by the board to speak.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem, sir. All right, since Mr. Rufo has deferred his time to Mr. Slusher, if there is no objection, I'd like to give Brevard County Chair Nathan Slusher the floor. Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, Mr. Slusher, the floor is yours, sir. Go ahead. You may address the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to everyone for your time here today. I have been very active in pushing for primaries because I believe it was Ms. McCulley, I apologize if I said your name incorrectly, who hit it on the nail that said primaries legitimize us. The number one complaint we have is that we don't have primaries, is that we don't have the power or the perceived power to win elections because we don't have primaries. This is the biggest primary in the country, and we have a choice to be in it or not, as Mr. Roos has explained from the law. As it currently sits, I do not support open primaries. I've expressed that to him, and I would ask one of the board members to move to amend that. So that one is gone. But that is just my personal opinion. As far as the resolution as it's presented, I have this morning, I reached out to Hector and presented a different resolution to head to Secretary of State that reads very differently. Due to that, I would highly ask in favor, I love this debate, but I would ask that somebody move to postpone this choice until the June meeting so everyone can read a separate resolution, because what goes to the state is highly important and we'll decide whether or not they even choose to look at us. So that's what I had to say. Is I want the idea of the presidential primaries. I think it's highly important for our voters. We're here for our voters. We're not here for us. And they want to vote. That's why they're registered libertarian. They want to go down to the polling place and vote for a libertarian. That's what they want. So I do support this, but I have asked for it to be amended as it's written. So thank you for your time, and thank you to everyone for discussing this matter.
All right, thank you, Mr. Slusher. Mr. Rufo, I appreciate you deferring to allow Mr. Slusher to get his time here. You have the floor, sir. Go ahead.
I kind of agree with. I was going to ask about what the process would be to moving this down the road. I think this is. I don't think this is much of a ground balls no brainer as everybody thinks it should be. I do think having the MPA language in the motion is unnecessary, because if the law says they can't do it, then I mean, even if the language is not in the resolution, there's nothing, or the motion, there's nothing stopping us from changing that decision, right? So like, if we know that it's not going to happen, like we just shouldn't have it in the motion. Sorry guys, I just think banking our decision on, well, we're going to reach out to 4 million people when we legally can't. I just don't think that's a really good reason for saying, hey, that's why we should do this. So if you are voting or you want to do that, just understand, I just don't think that's what we should do, my opinion, for what it's worth. Secondly, like, it's a pretty big decision. I am principally unsure of how I feel about allowing the state to run a primary for us. Like Matt said, I think standing on our principles is very important. I think many of the people who are members in our party understand that principle and wouldn't be offended if we decided not to. I understand the argument that, you know, hey, we want to look more legitimate. With all due respect, I don't want to be anything like the Democrats and Republicans. They suck, they are useless, and they are Leviathans. And the closer you get to power, the more evil things become, right? Cool. Let's just slip the ring of power on our pinky just a little, right? Let's just try the ring of power just a little. No, throw the fucking ring. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Throw the ring of power into Mordor and be done with it. I don't think we should be playing around with the ring of power, and I don't think we should be involved with that. So that's just my opinion.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rufo. Mr. Roos, I've given you 3 shots at the apple here. I'm going to give Mr. Misigoy a chance to go second, and then I'll let the board decide if they want to hear again. Go ahead, Mr. Misigoy. You have the floor, sir.
Yeah, thank you. We don't have a ring. Okay, we have nothing. We have no power. So I mean, those analogies are. I think it's a little. I don't think these analogies quite work out as well. Again, let's think of it a little bit differently, because the primaries are happening whether we do this or not. The ballots are getting printed. All this stuff is happening no matter whether we do this or not. We're not stopping anything by opposing it. Let's look at the effect of it, and really the effect of it. At best, we're putting words on a paper that would otherwise not be there. Because if you go to the polls in those primary elections, you'll get a ballot and it'll either have something on it or it won't. But what is the effect of it? Now we say, okay, that up to 4 million. Well, 4 million are probably not going to vote in it, because if they don't expect to have presidential candidates, they're probably not showing up for it. And if that's a less interesting election for people that aren't already really dialed into a political party. But if you get it with 5%, what are we getting here? We're talking about, we talk about hundreds of thousands, whatever, 10,000 more. Anything outside of what the little range we have, every little bit is something that helps us grow. So, and it shouldn't be something about like, oh, we're just selling out. We have nothing to sell at this point. We're just trying to reach people, and right now we are trying to just find opportunities to do it. Again, this is something that's already happened, and because we're legitimate as a political party, and we want to be seen as a legitimate political party, I go back to this being a reasonable thing to do. The same way we fight for ballot access. Think about this more the same way as ballot access, just being simple, to be in the conversation, to have the perception, and again, to simply be aware, or to have people know what we're doing. We have candidates out there, and to have the same consideration. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Misigoy. Mr. Roos, I saw your private DM. I believe that, being what you told me here, I think this will be something that the members will find. So go ahead, sir. You have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to motion or move to postpone this item till the next meeting.
All right. So there's been a motion to postpone this motion until the next. All right, seconded by Ms. McCully over here. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, please wait for me to call for a second. Please don't just call them out. Let's have a little order here. We're all adults. Let's act like it, please and thank you. I do not want to start treating you guys like children. So there's been a motion to postpone till the June meeting. It has been seconded by Ms. McCully. Is there any is this a discussion? Is something that can be discussed? All right, this is debatable. Is there any debate or discussion on the motion to postpone?
I just wanted to speak to my motion, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Roos, real quick, and then Mr. Leisner, I'll get you next.
There are several questions that came up here that I'd like to take the time to review for the members. And we have really until November to actually submit the paperwork, so we do have time. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Roos. Mr. Leisner, did you still want to be recognized?
No, I'm ready to move on.
All right, thank you, Mr. Leisner. All right, so there has been a motion to postpone until the June meeting. It's been seconded by Ms. McCully. Is there any final discussion on the matter? Hearing none, we can just take this to a vote. All in favor of postponing this motion until our June meeting, please say aye.
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 All opposed and want to continue on with this motion, please say no.
No.
Nay.
No.
Nay.
No.
Oof, that's close, guys. All right. Sorry to have to do this. Ed, we're gonna have to go to a roll call vote on this here so we can get a solid number. So let me know when you're ready, Ed, and we're gonna do a roll call vote for the postponement.
Okay, just to be clear, the roll call vote is on the amendment to postpone till the next meeting.
Yes,
skip
Mr.
the chair. I'll skip the
Thank
chair and go to Tim Crosby.
No.
Edward Epler, I'm voting aye. Patrick Leisner,
No.
Robert Vincent,
I'm abstaining.
Hector Roos,
Yes, postpone.
Lee Cortzer,
Aye.
Matt Rice,
No.
Joey Ferguson,
No.
Rachel Danner,
Aye.
Andrew Parrott,
Aye.
Matt Johnson,
Nay.
Petrea Quinn,
No.
Dennis Misigoy,
Aye to postpone.
Adam Whitworth,
Aye.
Michael Rufo,
Pass, unless I'm last.
John Paff,
Aye.
Deanna Cosma,
No.
Lisa Gansky,
No.
right now we have 8 ayes, 8 nays.
Oh, shit.
One
All
pass,
right.
one, and the chair's vote.
Did Mr. Rufo vote, Ed? Because I
No,
believe I thought I heard
Mr.
him
Rufo
pass.
passed.
I
Mr.
passed. I
Rufo
didn't
passed.
vote.
Mr. Rufo passed and Mr. Vincent abstained.
Yeah, I haven't voted. I guess it's on. I don't want to do this all night. That's the problem. And I'm open to the conversation. I'm gonna say we postpone. I'm gonna vote yes. I know I'm not. There's no making everybody happy, so I'm gonna vote yes. I want to postpone this. I think it's a conversation worth having.
All right, then that would make it sound like, Mr. Appler, that my vote would not be necessary. So I'm going to also abstain on this here. So it sounds like if that's the case, the ayes should have it if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Mr. Appler?
Yes, sir. It'll be 9 ayes, 8 nays, and 2 abstains.
All right, so that, for all intents and purposes, ladies and gentlemen, means the postponement has been approved and we will have this as part of old business at the June meeting here. So motion passes. I'm going to call it here. We will be hearing about this again this month later, or excuse me, in June. So please do your due diligence over the next calendar month, guys. Get with Mr. Roos. You know, if there's anything that we want to do differently, we can, you know, let's have these discussions now so we're not coming back and having another 45-minute hour discussion piece on old business here. So thank you, everybody. We'll bring this back up in June. Now, next item on the agenda is item E, discussion on a proposal for a strategic plan for the LPF. I'm going to combo this with item F, guys. This was originally my intention, was to speak on these two together for essentially 30 minutes. I'm not even going to probably take that. It'll probably be maybe 10, 15 tops. So I'm just going to go along with this if there's no objection and just combo, like I said, item E and item F together to discuss it. The vision deck, if you guys haven't looked at it already, you know, I'm not going to sit here and do the same thing Steven does, where I'm going to, or Mr. Nikela did, where I read it through line by line. You're all adults. I believe all of you guys have enough intelligence to be able to read. If you couldn't read, you wouldn't be here right now. So please take a look at the slideshow, double check to make sure, you know, see what your committees are doing, committee chairs, regional reps, EC members, you know, look what your responsibilities are going to be. This is going to be something we are going to be holding people to this year as far as goals are concerned. I know for some of the committees, you're probably looking at it going, well, 12-month goals, we're probably going to have the next convention in February. Understandable. We already get that. You know, these are things to set up the next committee chair if you don't intend to retain the position to be able to be successful, guys. So keep in mind as you're working towards these goals that they were created by multiple people, including yourself or your predecessor. These are all realistic goals, in my opinion. These aren't anything crazy or outlandish. These are things that, speaking with the last committee chair, they felt they were realistic, which is why we put them in there. And if we don't meet these goal thresholds, guys, there's going to be very strong conversations on why didn't we meet these goals? What can we do to meet these goals? And then moving along, what should we be, you know, what should be the deadline for it before we, you know, need to figure out corrective actions. So, you know, for those of you on committees, for those of you on the EC, please take your time, look it over, check this out. Now, the proposal for a strategic plan is really more of what I wanted to talk about here, because the vision deck, you guys, it's been in and out every year. You guys have seen it. You know it. You love it. The strategic plan, once again, if you haven't looked it over, I'm not going to sit here and handhold with you guys. Once again, you're all adults. I'm going to treat you like adults here. If you haven't read it, please go and take a look at it. I'm trying to open it now on my end, but my computer's being very difficult. This is something that I would like to have a follow-up meeting that includes many of the state affiliate chairs, as well as the EC, as well as the committee chairs, to start to come up with a vision and a plan. Our biggest issue as a party over the last 50 years nationwide is that we just have no long-term vision. We're always struggling towards short-term goals. We're always chasing our tail with ballot access, which is not a problem here in Florida, but nationally, if anybody pays attention, we know that this is something we're consistently talking about, is got to maintain ballot access, got to get ballot access. We don't have that problem here, guys. It's very easy for our candidates to get on the ballot. Get enough signatures or pay the filing fee. Congratulations, you qualified, you're on the ballot. So, you know, definitely something we need to discuss is starting to create a long-term vision for the party that incorporates short-term goals as part of that long-term vision, So that way we have short-term goals to build success and build momentum towards those long-term goals, which are going to actually help us win, kind of like Mr. Slusher's been saying, kind of like Mr. Roos has been saying, kind of like everybody else on here, Mr. Rufo, Mr. Paff has been saying, you know, we want to win as a party. So unfortunately, that requires having a plan to be successful. What have we not had for a while? A long-term plan. It's always been year to year, month to month. We've never had a, hey, what's the party going to look like 10 years from now when all of us have retired off of the EC? So, you know, like I said, if you guys haven't already, I'd like you guys to take a look. I'd like to open it up here a little bit. If there's any questions, concerns, anything that you're seeing here with it, kind of make this a little bit of an open dialogue for the next, we'll go till 9 o'clock with this here since I've talked for about 10 minutes. Is there anything anybody's seen, anybody has any concerns with, things they want to see, or are we just ready to move along? All right. Seeing no hands and hearing nobody jumping up here, looks like we can move past the discussion piece here. Once again, guys, this is something we're going to be coming back to. I'm probably going to try to create some kind of informal meeting. Once again, EC board members, committee chairs, affiliate county chairs, so that you can't past and current candidates. So that way we can start to work together as an organization to build up. Because I've said this several times, you know, privately, but you know, we're a party and we have $57,000 in the bank. It's public record. You can look at Mr. Leisner's treasury report. We have $57,000 in the bank. You know, we have a limited number of members spread out across the state, wearing a lot of different hats, doing a lot of different jobs. We need to start considering what our long-term focus is going to be. So one, we're not burning out our volunteers. Two, we're starting to build some successes that we can get momentum on. And three, you know, we can actually not kind of slip the ring of power on our pinky, but put the gauntlet of power on, snap our fingers, and get rid of at least half the state in one go. So, you know, let's stay focused, guys. Let's start thinking about this as, you know, individuals here. And like I said, I'm going to pull something together over the next month or so to try and get us all together in one spot to have those discussions and start to hash this out as a party here. So if anybody has anything, don't hesitate to come to me with it. You know, I definitely want to start to begin the dialogue on this. So, all right, that clears item E and item F here. Now, item G was a move to go to executive session by Mr. Roos. So we're going to have to clear the lobby of all of our non-EC members. Because usually this is a question I would have for Mr. Peel, but he's not on tonight. Mr. Thompson, you would be the highest ranking member of the Rules Committee. Would deputy members of the EC, like the deputy treasurer, deputy secretary, have standing in an executive committee session, or are they to be removed too?
I think they are also removed because they're not voting members.
Understood. I think that's smart. Let's err on the side of caution here. For those in the gallery, I'm not going to remove you from the meeting. I'm going to put everybody into a waiting room. When we rise from executive session, I will bring you guys all back into the meeting and remove you from the waiting room. So at this time, ladies and gentlemen, anybody who is not an executive committee member, I am going to be moving you to a waiting room. If you fall off here, just hang tight in that waiting room. We will admit everybody back in once we are out of executive session here. So give me a minute. Let me put everybody in the waiting room, guys, and then we will begin our executive session here. And then any of the co-hosts, if you want to help with this, please, by all means, start putting people in the waiting room. All right, let me see. I believe everybody left in here are all EC members. Yes. All right. All right, give me a second, guys. Let me stop the recording real quick.